Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and by DieHard. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb, and I am John Davis. Last time I looked, and welcome to podcast number 116 for MotorWeek, and we're delighted to have you with us. Around our odd-shaped table in Studio C at MotorWeek Central is our odd collection of staffers. Our producer-writer, Brian Robinson.
Oh, yeah.
Our road test producer, Ben Davis.
Definitely the oddest.
And our assistant producer, Greg Carlos.
Hey, how are you?
And our writer-producer, Patrick Lucas.
I swear we and this table get weirder every time.
Well, I think weirdness is goodness. And we've got a lot of not so weird cars to talk about today. We also have our lightning round, and we'll even have a viewer question. We're going to focus on new crossover utilities in our car areas. I mean, after all, spring is here, and the smaller crossovers are all in vogue. So we're going to kind of go down the list of what's new, and a couple in the subcompact area, and a new midsizer. Let's start with the newest. Well, it actually is the newest of the news because it's as we speak, it's just beginning to roll into dealer showrooms, and that's the 2016 Honda HR-V. I've driven it. I know most of you have seen it. Smaller than the CR-V, a little bit larger motor than most in this class, like the Chevy Trax. What do you think? What you know about it so far?
I think what makes it is it's based on the Fit chassis, which is way more entertaining to drive than it should be, and means it's got the magic seats inside for a room that blows away anything else in the class.
I agree. I was going to say, a lot of people like the Fit. I personally like the Fit, and this is just basically, from my understanding, a Fit with more room.
Yeah, I mean, they like to claim that, it's more changed than that, but it obviously uses the same basic platform, and I was surprised how quiet it was, how well it rode and drove. I mean, it actually was entertaining to drive. Has that very simple, straightforward Honda interior, no tricks with the dashboard like the Civic or anything, very straightforward. I think they've got an instant hit on their hands, frankly. People are going to look at it and say, there's a good selection of small SUVs out there, really small SUVs, but this one's not that small. It's got a little bit more power to it, and like you said, Brian, it's based on the Fit.
And if you can't wait for that new 5-door hatch Civic, just buy it when it's called the HR-V.
Yeah, that's basically it.
As long as it has a turbo motor.
The second vehicle we're going to talk about is up in size. Well,
small car, small segment.
Small cars. Let's talk about the other. Actually, before we jump to the larger one, let's talk about one that we've got very firsthand knowledge of because we've had it in just recently to test. This is also in that subcompact crossover area, and that's the 2015 Jeep Renegade. Okay. Traditional Jeep, no. Viable, what do you think?
Well, the first thing I would say about it doesn't seem as small to me as the subcompacts. I mean, it was a lot more room in there than I was expecting.
Pretty roomy inside.
Yeah, even in the back seat, too.
Yeah, based on the pictures, I was expecting the thing to be tiny, but to me, I don't know that it is subcompact. It's pretty decent size.
It's based on the same chassis as the Fiat 500L and also the Fiat X500X or X500. So it has some commonality with other Fiat-based vehicles. It's a global Jeep. They're basically hoping to sell it a lot more, I guess, in Asia and maybe even in Europe than they are here.
I like it. I wasn't a fan of the Cherokee when it came out and that new styled Jeep interior with that big fat steering wheel and all sorts of the switchgear and all that stuff. I like it a lot more than the Renegade. It's got like a nice kind of youthful edge to it. I like the way it looks. I don't know. I thought it was like a fun, cool kind of, had just enough Jeep edge.
Yeah, with just enough quirkiness to appeal to everyone, really. And just enough ruggedness up front to appeal to Jeep people that aren't quite sure if they want to go down that watered down road. Maybe there was a guy we ran into in a Compass, was it?
Yeah.
That said that didn't like it, said it wasn't a real Jeep.
They call that a Jeep.
From inside his Compass.
From a Compass, he's actually casting stones.
I don't agree with it, but it was kind of funny.
Well, I think Jeep kind of knew that, and they went over the top, I feel, on making sure you know it's a Jeep. They have Jeep literally branded everywhere in this
And
vehicle.
also, since 1941?
Since 1941.
It's
I swear, everywhere you look on this vehicle, there's some kind of Jeep heritage piece, and it's like it got to a point where it's just too much. And when I first got in it, I wasn't a huge fan, but it did grow on me. Actually, and I think one of the big things was we had a nice day, and I popped the tops off of it. And
talk about the tops.
Yeah, I have two removable roof panels. And they're really light, easy to take off. You got a special key, and of course, the key is actually a Jeep grill. So
it weighs about 5 pounds.
Yeah, it does. So you can't have it on your key ring. But yeah, they come out really easy. They stow in the back, really light, and it does it. It adds that kind of Jeep feel to it, open air, and that was probably my favorite part.
How did you guys feel about the fuel economy on that? Did you think that was a reasonable fuel economy to have
I think
for a vehicle like that?
Well, it's doing about 23, 24?
I took it for about 120 miles of good driving. I got close to 25.
And the problem there is that the tank is so small.
Oh, the tank
you
is
don't get any
only got
range out
200
of it.
miles of range.
I think we keep expecting these subcompact, SUVs to get us up into the 30s, and some of them will just about hit 30. So I was a little underwhelmed with it, I must say.
That doesn't seem too bad to me, mid-20s.
Probably not.
I was just trying to balance it. See,
it was
pretty small.
It does seem like it's got a pretty competent. This one's got the up-level four-wheel drive system or all-wheel drive system. It had settings for mud and snow and sand, and you could lock it. I was pretty impressed, for a really crossover type vehicle.
Yeah, from the early pictures, I mean, it looked really. Some of the colors make it look almost cartoonish in the pictures, but having it in here and seeing it and driving it, I mean, it's
solid.
They made it very Jeep. It's almost more Jeep-like than the Cherokee.
I think
I
a
would
lot
agree
of people,
with that.
Yeah, I think actually my spouse did too. Yeah. The last thing I'll say about it, I had a chance to see it when they showed it to the press very early on. And the only thing I don't like about it is I think the rear quarter doesn't look like Jeep at all. It's got that little upturn window behind the C-pillar that, I don't know, doesn't even. It looks a little European, looks a little Asian, doesn't look Jeep. But that's my only real complaint. Okay, and the last crossover we're going to talk about really moves up. No, just today, moves up to the mid-size class. Ford has finally redone the Ford Edge. This was their first attempt at doing something other than a compact crossover. Since then, of course, they've made the Explorer into a crossover. This vehicle was kind of badly in need of a redo. And what do you think? You've all had a chance to see it a little bit.
This definitely is a white-hot segment lately, this mid-size segment. And granted, Edge did come out in 2007, which is...
It's a long time ago.
That's when the first iPhone came out. And so put that in your head. Anyway, they did a great job restyling it. It's definitely ready to compete with Murano and Sorento. I think the styling will last for the whole run, and there's plenty of room for mid-cycle refresh that could take it to the next level as well. And the powertrains are amazing. I mean, your base engine now is a 2-liter EcoBoost. And on this base model, you can also get all-wheel drive and a towing package. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. And the base model, it'll start you at $28,100. And there is a sport model EcoBoost at 2.7 liter, the same one that's in the F-150. And if you guys if you're scared of turbo motors, then there's a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6 too. All of them are 6-speed autos, no CVTs. So that's not everybody can say that.
I was surprised how much I liked it. The first Edge, I didn't like at all. I thought it was a very lukewarm attempt. They kept improving it, and they've done a very good job. This one, I think it's right up there with the best in class as far as layout, usefulness on the inside. if you want 3 rows, you've got to go up to the Explorer. But when you compare it to something like Santa Fe Sport or even the larger Santa Fe, I think it comes off pretty good.
It drives pretty nice, too. It drives like a sporty sedan would now.
You haven't really spent any time in it, but it's physically bigger, but the new styling makes it look less bloated, I think. I think it looks good.
I think the Sport is pretty mean looking, pretty aggressive looking.
Ben, when you drove it, did you have any chance to try out the automatic parking system? Because the one thing that system has that so far we haven't seen, I believe, from anyone else, is it will actually pull out of the space for you.
It will, yeah. And that, I got to give it to Ford because I've been in a few systems that will park you, and Ford seems to do it without flaw. The easiest to initiate.
A lot of them are really tough to get to work.
Yeah, you really have to do the secret handshake, and Ford really's got it nailed down. It does pretty much everything for you.
Parallel and perpendicular?
Yeah.
It'll do perpendicular as well. I mean, the biggest problem with those systems is the vehicle recognizing a spot that the car can fit into, and Ford's setup doesn't seem to have a problem. It's real fast. You could actually use it real time and not
worry about people behind you honking the horn
the guy
and
behind you.
getting annoyed. Ford actually has developed this. This is an outgrowth of a system they actually have developed in Europe, and I don't think they've marketed it yet, where you could actually get out of the vehicle if you're in a tight slot-in parking where you can't open the doors to get in and out of the car. You can actually get out and control the car from either a keypad or your smartphone, and it will park itself and then pull it out.
That's pretty scary.
And that's a little scary, but maybe that's why we haven't seen it here yet. But they've been working on that.
Go on a beer run for me. That's when that'll be really interesting.
Beer mode.
Demolition Derby mode.
All right, so that's the latest in crossovers coming up. We'll have a lot more about the Honda HR-V, which we didn't talk as much about on an upcoming edition of MotorWeek.
Sorry, Honda.
We had the HR-V. We talked a little about the Renegade and the Edge. And let's move on now to our lightning round, where our panelists have 2 minutes to debate a trending automotive topic. And when the time's up, Patrick will hit us with the bell.
Ding, ding, ding.
And that's our cue to sort of wind it down, if not shut up entirely. Okay. Nissan has announced the release of their driver attention alert system to combat distracted and drowsy driving. It monitors and learns driver habits on steering inputs and acceleration. And basically it can tell you, hey, maybe you should take a break and pull over for a little bit. We've seen similar systems in Mercedes-Benz and others. Ever found them useful? Do you think this one will catch on? Any comment about just the validity of these systems?
I haven't experienced any of them or to know how they work. I was on a Mercedes event when they first came out with theirs and seen some videos they had of people falling asleep in cars. They basically made some of their engineers just drive constantly till they started nodding off. But
that was a real world test.
So it obviously works. And having seen firsthand, I've been on the interstate before and watched a truck driver fall asleep and run off the road. If it works at all, it's definitely a good safety system to have, more so than some of the other ones that we've got.
Has anybody here ever basically been driving at night or after you're tired and wake up and you don't know where you are? You've actually driven several miles.
I've fallen asleep behind the wheel once.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary. Yeah. It's like, okay, so this system, many years ago, I was in Tokyo for the auto show, and Nissan took us one of their labs, and they showed us a lot of the stuff that we thought would never show up, like the surround view camera and all that's common now. And they were working on this system, and they basically had, as you nodded, if your head nodded forward, it would read your body motion. And at the time, I'm not sure how extensive this particular system is. It's apparently on the Murano, or you can get it on the Murano, and you can get it on the new Maxima, which they just showed at the New York Auto Show.
Yeah, what I was...
I don't think it's a camera-based system like some of them.
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah,
it just senses your inputs.
This one says, it kind of monitors how you normally drive in terms of minute corrections in the steering wheel, and if it notices anything drastic out of character, I guess.
Yeah, or if you haven't made any input at all at a certain over a certain period of time. Yeah.
But obviously, this is like we're headed towards where there'll be a camera inside watching.
I think the Mercedes does.
Mercedes does that already. Yeah. It's one of those things like Gee, I don't know. But on the other hand, I can think of probably about a half a dozen times where I'm probably lucky to be here, and a system like that would have probably saved my bacon. So anyway,
save that bacon.
Save that bacon. Thank you very much.
Ding.
Okay, so drowsy driver systems, alert systems seem to have a place, and I have a feeling, since it's Nissan, we'll see this in a lot more vehicles pretty quickly. Let's move on now to a viewer question. Lionel asked, and we get this one quite a lot. How do you relieve moisture inside of a light fixture, meaning headlight housing or tail light housing? What do you think?
I'm not sure how much you can really fix it.
Yeah, it's kind of, it'll just keep happening. That's the problem, unless you actually go in and fix the seal problem.
I have fixed the seal problem before. I mean, if you're out of warranty and you got no choice, and you don't want to fish one out of a junkyard, you can dry it out, try to figure out where it's leaking from. Usually those pieces are pressed together between a front and a back, and a lot of times you can see a hairline crack in what is normally just two pieces of plastic melted together. You could drop a bead of clear silicone over there, let it dry good, put it back. Hopefully you can't see the silicone when it's back in there, but I have done it once and it did work.
Now, was your situation leaking in, or was it condensation?
It was condensation. The question really didn't say if it was a fish tank in there or if it was just a condensation. Condensation, what I would try is just drill out the bottom, let it all drain out. I mean, if it was puddled up in there, just let it all drain out, and then try to get a rubber stopper, plug it back up in the bottom, and figure out where it's coming in from.
We've had brand new vehicles in here. I remember not too long ago we had it's been several years now, we had a very expensive Range Rover here, well over six figures. And every morning you came out, there was about a half an inch of water in one of the headlights. And it would go away during the day, but of course it would cloud up as it would evaporate. So it was getting in, but it wasn't necessarily getting out of it. If it was mine, first thing I'd look is if it has a bulb, a removable bulb, see if that seal is in good shape. But actually, your idea, I think, of drilling a very small hole in the bottom so it could drain might be the best idea of all.
Yeah, and then figure out where it's coming in from.
Yeah. Okay, I hope, Lionel, that helps a little bit with the problem and keeps you from having to go out and buy a new headlight or taillight housing, because these days those can be extremely expensive. And that brings to a close our MotorWeek podcast number 116. I want to thank our audio engineer, Jim Bigwood, who always makes us sound better than we have any right to sound, our podcast creator, Bob Mixter, our podcast producer, Patrick Lucas, the man with the bell, and around the table, Brian Robinson, road test producer Ben Davis, Greg Carlos, and of course Patrick and myself. Thank you all for listening to our podcast, and we hope you'll catch MotorWeek on your local public television station each and every week, and also weekly on the great cable channel Velocity. Till then, I'm John Davis from all of us at MotorWeek. Thanks for watching and listening, and I can never get it out right. Watching and listening and being with us here on MotorWeek. You wouldn't know I make a living talking. Thanks, Jim. Roll the tape.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and by Die Hard. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series, each week on your local PBS station.